Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey, and as always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Good to have you in today. This is a pretty big show, a pretty massive show. We got a lot planned. We got a lot of games to break down. We got some record-breaking games to get into, and of course, that'll obviously be our first topic of today's show. But, Jonah, how you doing today on this Tuesday?
Really good, really good. Looking forward to the show here. We got a lot to talk about, a lot of exciting games this weekend, some that were hard to believe.
Yeah.
Particularly that the Dolphins game, which is our first topic, and the Oregon game. They wiped out Colorado. I was surprised by that.
Yeah, we were talking some college football. We got a lot of games to cover, a lot of disappointments. Just a quick update, my Harvey hot hand. I still only have one loss on the year. Because of last night's Bengals was a push, I went 3-1-1. Still have yet to lose multiple games so far. Making some decent money if you're following along with my Harvey hot hand. I just thought I'd throw that in there. Our win-loss, not too bad. We'll get into it on Friday. We'll recap this last week's games and head into next week's picks. But that's on Friday. Let's jump into our first topic of today's show. So we had a record-breaking game. The Miami Dolphins put up 70 points and 726 yards of total offense in a 50-point win over Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos. A truly humiliating loss for Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos. So I want to know, do you think the Dolphins are really this good, or are the Broncos really this bad?
I think it's a little bit of both, actually. The Dolphins look great, right? Their offense is one of the best I've seen. They've got skilled players there. It looks like they have two great running backs, Mostert and this other guy. He's a rookie.
He's an
right?
A-Chan, I think he wants to.
Yeah, he had, 4 touchdowns?
4 touchdowns.
On Sunday, and 200 yards rushing or something like that. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. And they asked McDaniel after the game, what is it? He says, well, it's fundamentals, everyone doing their job. Sounded like Bill Belichick to me. Focusing on what your assignment is and executing as accurately as possible. And it's not all about saying, well, we're going to go out and win the Super Bowl. They're focused on football and on the individual plays and on the individual assignments of all the players. And I think that speaks a lot for that guy and his coaching style. On the other side of the ball, I would say Sean Payton is probably wondering, what the hell did I get myself into here? Why did I take this job? And I think he has alienated his players. They gave up on him in this game, right? They basically gave up. They after it got to some certain score, I don't know, 40-10 or.
I would think at halftime.
What was the score at halftime?
At halftime, they had 35 points.
35.
It was 35-13, I think.
35-13. I don't know. Probably wouldn't give up just them, but then the Dolphins came out and just obliterated them in the second half. So he's got some problems there. The players and their commitment to the game. It was an embarrassment.
Yeah.
It was an embarrassment. He said it was hard to watch. Yeah. Well, what's he going to do now? What's he going to say to those guys? I don't know. And he's dissed Russell Wilson in the press and the players. Maybe they don't buy it. Maybe he's lost the locker room. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
I think it would be incredibly difficult for a guy like Sean Payton and with the history that Sean Payton has of success to lose a locker room, 3 games in. However, I will say this. The defense of the Denver Broncos has regressed tremendously. 1 point late in the year, they had the number 1 pass defense in the entire league. Now they go up and give up 7, that's a Madden number. 70 points in a game and 726 yards of offense. First off, I'll say this. The Dolphins are the first team to score 5 rushing touchdowns and 5 passing touchdowns in a single game, which is absolutely absurd. Not only that, 70 points, they were 3 points away. They had an opportunity to kick a field goal to set the record, but instead they decided to kneel it, which, you're that close. And by the way, Tua said that, I'm paraphrasing it, but it wasn't about, embarrassing them or anything. You put up 70 points.
They embarrassed them.
It's going to be an embarrassing performance when they put up 70 points anyway, but that was the most since 1966. And 726 yards was the most. It's the most in NFL history, but it was the most since the Rams did it back in 51. I think they had 722 yards, if I'm not mistaken. So this was an all-around dominant performance. But this was not about, an absolutely soul-crushing defensive performance from the Miami Dolphins. This was an offensive masterpiece. And I said this when I did my top 10 list last year. I put Tua as a top 3 or 4 quarterback in the league when healthy. I mean, this Mike McDaniel system, it works extremely well. And also take into account this, they were without the number two receiver in Jalen Waddle. He was out, I believe, with a concussion that he got against the Patriots the week prior. So the fact that they didn't even have their, super great number 2 wide receiver, and they still were able to put up 70 points on the board, as well as 726 yards of offense, is absolutely incredible. Hell, even Mike White was dealing a little bit. He went 2 for 2 for 67 yards and a touchdown.
Wow.
We're talking about Mike White here.
Yeah.
So not only, by the way, Tua, I think he went 18 of 18 before his first incompletion. I think it was 16 of 16 by halftime. So he was absolutely dealing in this entire game. Russell Wilson actually didn't have an absolutely terrible game.
I know. I saw that. His stats.
He went 23 of 38 for 306, a touchdown and an interception. It's not bad whatsoever. It's just the fact that you're getting absolutely crushed. They led 10. They had 10 drives that ended in a touchdown. 10 drives. It's absolutely insane what the Dolphins did on Sunday. I mean,
they 70 points is that's 3 games worth of points basically, right?
Yeah. No,
it's and 700 yards, right?
You don't see that.
Usually, some games is maybe 300 yards is considered a good game, right?
Right.
In an offense, 700 yards.
700 yards. Like we're talking Madden numbers here, and not only that, like Mahomes with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce didn't even put up these phenomenal numbers. Tua and Mike McDaniel did, and that's with Tyreek Hill and without the number 2. So I mean, and by the way, this guy Devon A-Train, he had 4 total touchdowns on the day. He's a rookie and had 4 total touchdowns, and also Raheem Mostert, he had 4 total touchdowns as well, 3 rushing, one receiving touchdown. So hands down, all around to the Miami Dolphins.
I mean, Nathaniel Hackett wasn't great, but he was not this bad.
No,
he was far from this. He never gave up 70 points and 726 yards.
Yeah. And by the way, he went 2-1 in his first 3 games.
Yeah.
With the win over the 49ers as one of them.
Yeah.
So I think right now, Sean Payton, saying that Nathaniel Hackett's coaching job is one of the worst, if not the worst, in NFL history, and then putting up performances like this.
He's doing his best to
outdo him.
To outdo him, right?
No,
for a terrible coaching performance, and he's so far he's succeeding.
And this was after Sean Payton made comments about simplifying the playing the play calling and wrist banding some plays because of what happened in the Washington game, where Russell Wilson missed some throws and missed some open receivers. I mean, right now, Sean Payton has played this pretty poorly. He attacked the previous head coach. Now he's attacked Russell Wilson a number of times.
And now it looks like the players are giving up.
I mean, in this game,
they did. They gave up.
I guarantee you, not anyone in the entire world is going to still be trying when you're down by 45 points in a game. That just maybe in college because you're fighting to get to the NFL. But if we're talking about an NFL game, you're getting absolutely creamed by halftime, down by 22, and then you come out and you get smoked. I mean, by halftime, Miami's projection was 70 points because you scored 35 at half.
Then when you get that far behind, you're not going to win. You put in the second, third stringers and give them a chance to show what they can do. And maybe he did that, and they just have terrible players after the starters. I don't know.
Well, what was sort of telling about this was Sean Payton kept Russell Wilson in this game for the entire game. Never put in the backup quarterback for the Raiders last year that the Patriots had.
Stidham.
Yeah, Jarrett Stidham. Didn't even put him in. Didn't put any backup quarterback in. Left Russell Wilson out there to keep on playing.
Well, maybe to learn the offense better.
Maybe.
Right? Yeah, maybe.
But then again, I don't think the defense was horrible here. However, the offense should take a major hit here because that's where most of the money for the Broncos is going, on the offensive side. They're not paying the defense a lot, so you can't say
the defense was good last year.
The defense was very the fact that
they've very good last year.
The fact that they have Pat Surtain, who was the second highest graded cornerback in the league. So the fact that this defense has regressed to this point is a little bit shocking here. Mm-hmm. But I got Russell Wilson for the first half of games has looked really good. It's the second half where he crumbles. I mean, they put up 7 points in the second half, and that was in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, I don't know if Sean Payton has lost the locker room quite yet, But I will say this.
It's on his way.
I
don't know
think,
what would you say to your players after they gave up 70 points and 726 yards the next time they meet?
There's only two ways you could look at this. You could use it as motivation to win your next game, or you just move past it like it never happened. There's no way you could sort of, talk about this and figure out everything went wrong. There's nothing that went really right here. Basically, every single thing went wrong. The defense, I think if I'm answering the question, are the Dolphins really this good or the Broncos? I think the Broncos are really this bad.
You do.
I do, because we saw we saw Tua throw for over 400 yards against the Ravens last year, so we know this offense could be high flying. The defense has just been abysmal so far for the Broncos.
The first game against the Chargers, the Dolphins lit it up too,
right?
Right.
Tua had was it Tyreek Hill over 200 yards in that game,
and Tua had 446 yards passing.
I'm telling you right now, like this offense with a healthy Tua, with a healthy Tyreek Hill, with the healthy Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle wasn't even this game, but I'm just saying they're a tremendous offense. And now you got this guy Devon Chan. He's put 18 carries, 203 yards. These are Madden numbers.
Yeah.
These are video game numbers here, and it's insane exactly what the Dolphins have been able to do. And right now, I don't think I had the Dolphins as definite playoff teams. They've jumped a few spots for Nate's notches after next week. They're right now, spoiler, they're the number one team in the NFL. And I really think, based on the way they've been playing, I don't think it's very close. Right now, the Chiefs don't look great on offense. They just tore up the Bears, but the Bears are the Bears.
Who are the Dolphins playing this week?
The Dolphins this next week upcoming are playing the Bills. And actually, what's crazy...
The Bills. Now, that's a big game.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Bills are favored in this game as well.
It's at Buffalo. I'm pretty sure, right? The game's at Buffalo.
That is correct, at Bills. Yeah. Still though.
That favors the Dolphins because generally they play Buffalo late in the season. It's freezing up there. It's miserable, the weather, and that's not so good for a team that plays in Florida, right? So this year they're up there. It's not going to be that bad, right? It's not going to be snowing, I don't think, this time of year. So the next time they play them, it'll be in Miami. So I say Miami's got I think they got the upper hand. That's going to be a hard one to pick. It's going to be a hard one to pick.
I guarantee it'll not be a part of my Harvey hot hand, but I don't know. It will be definitely interesting to choose who wins, Dolphins, Bills. But right now, Dolphins look like easily the best team in the NFL, and the Broncos, they got some soul searching. They go up against, I believe, the Bears this week. If they lose that one, if they lose this game, Russell Wilson's getting benched. I don't know if Sean Payton gets fired, but I know Russell Wilson will get benched. This is looking mighty grim right now for the Broncos, but they should get the ball rolling. They play two relatively easy games, the Bears and the Jets, the next 2 weeks, and then they go Chiefs, Packers, Chiefs, Bills, Vikings, Browns. Even the Texans, like I said earlier this year,
the Texans say, look at C.J. Stroud.
They just whooped the
playing like
the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Veteran quarterback.
He's
looking like he should have been the number one pick.
Hey, who picked him number one and said he'd be the best quarterback in the draft? I'm just going to throw that. But, it is interesting to see just how bad the Broncos have been, even though a lot of people were hoping they would be better. I'm just saying, trend, not a blip. I've said that all offseason. Let's get into our next topic here. So, one of my Harvey hot hand picks, Chargers, Vikings. Chargers were able to get their first win of the season and keep the Vikings winless as well. They go to 0-3, nearly impossible for the Vikings to make the playoffs, being down 0-3 statistically and over the course of history. And I do want to bring up this last play. This last sequence sort of defined exactly how this Viking season has gone so far. The first play, a beautiful play. Throw to T.J. Hawkinson over the middle. Great play. Get all the way down to the 6 or the 7. And this is where I get concerned. No sense of urgency. The clock's at 30 seconds. No one knows exactly what's going on.
They didn't know what they were doing.
Do we call a play? Do we spike it? What exactly is going on? Kirk Cousins is trying to get the play here. Then he's relaying to his team. Now we're at 20 seconds. They're trying to determine a play. Clock keeps ticking. No real sense of urgency. They get up to the line, right? Kirk Cousins in the shotgun sort of has a predetermined idea who to throw to. He throws it into a covered guy. It gets intercepted, and the game is essentially over. This really defines how this Viking season has gone. You set up a beautiful play, and you somehow choke it. Now, personally for me, you spike the damn ball. Screw what Kevin O'Connell says. This is where
It was
veteran
four down
quarterback
territory.
leadership.
It was 4-down territory.
If you spike it now, you have about 28 seconds to play with. And if you're at the 6-yard line, that's at least 2 plays. If not, you would spike it, so you'd be second down. You're in 3-play territory here, but instead you last until how long until they snap the ball? 12 seconds.
Yeah.
12 seconds, and you throw it into a covered guy.
Unacceptable.
So that's how the Vikings game
And
ended.
this is what these guys do for a living. I don't know what they were thinking about there.
So I want to ask you the question. At 0-3, is the Vikings season officially over?
No, I don't think it's officially over.
Wow.
I think the division they're in, it's got some question marks there with Green Bay's got the new quarterback. And, the Bears, you play them twice. That's 2 wins. The Lions, hey, they lost to Seattle, right? So they're playing the Packers this week. We'll see what happens there. I'm picking them, but not with a great confidence. So I think their division, they should get some wins in the division. They were played over their heads last year for sure. I didn't think they'd come anywhere near the record they had last year this year, and they're proving that now. They haven't won a game yet. I didn't pick them to make the playoffs this year. So I don't think they're as bad as they look. Whether they can claw their way back into it, I mean, the Sunday is a must-win for them, for sure.
For me, just based on history and I look at trends very closely. I'm calling the Vikings season over. Now, I mentioned this during the offseason. The Vikings, they set an NFL record last year. They were 11-0 in 1-score games. Right now, they're 0-3. So far, a complete reverse of last season. Now, on that last play, and I'll bring it up one more time. This last play, Kirk Cousins has been in the NFL for, 13 years, 12 years? 12 years. And you don't know situational football. You're waiting for Kevin O'Connell to give you the play or your OC to give you the play. If it were any sort of experienced quarterback, you know you got to spike the ball. You're rushed. If you can't get the call, you have to make up the decision on your own. Instead, you wait till 12 seconds to snap a ball when you had an opportunity to at least save 16, 17 more seconds on the clock. Instead, you throw it to a covered guy, and that basically ends the season for you there. So for me, absolutely 1,000%, the Vikings season is essentially over. I believe there's only 3 or 4 teams to ever make the playoffs going down 0-3, and I think there's one team, I think it's the 1998 Chargers, I could be mistaken, to ever win a playoff game going down 0-3. And your schedule isn't that light either, words. I mean, depending on if Bryce Young is good to go or not, I assume you're going to win the game anyway at Panthers next week. But then you go against the Chiefs. Then you go at Bears. You should win that. So right now you're looking at 2-5. You're at versus the 49ers. That's a loss. Jordan Love in Green Bay looks great. Who knows about that? Then you go to the Falcons. Falcons, I'm not sure. B. John Robinson might run all over you.
Sure.
I found it very interesting. I want to ask your opinion on this. J.C. Jackson, they gave him a massive extension. It's like 5 years, $87 million, something like that. He was a healthy scratch. They decided not to play him.
Wow.
So, interesting to say the least. I mean, he hasn't been very good for the Chargers last year. He got hurt, but even before then, he did not look that great. I mean, what he used to be on the Patriots, I don't know if it's the fact that Brandon Staley, a defensive head coach, is the one coaching you versus Belichick. I don't know what it is, but J.C. Jackson going from 17 interceptions in 3 years to now looking absolutely terrible and getting benched.
The scheme.
I'm sure it is, but still.
Yeah.
What also I find shocking with congratulations to the Chargers. They win their first game. By the way, they almost screwed themselves up. Brandon Staley again went for it on 4th and 1. I believe on their own 25 or something like that. I don't love that because that cost them games in the past. That has cost them games in the past. So the fact that they did it again and this time they lost it, you're going up against Kirk Cousins. So maybe, you're hoping your defense could hold. But basically throughout Brandon Staley's tenure, your defense has not been great and you're a defensive head coach. Generally, when you become a head coach, your specialty is whatever side of the ball you were prior coaching. Brandon Staley's a defensive guy, and his defense is the problem. He can't get his defense right, at least with Robert Saleh.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised that defense is so poor, right? They have Joey Bosa.
Yep.
They have Khalil Mack.
Yep. They have
They have
Asante
J.C.
Samuel
Jackson.
Jr.
They have Asante Samuel Jr.
Derwin James, their safety.
Yeah.
I mean, they got pieces.
They got some names there. Those guys have played well, and Joey Bosa's been with the Chargers his whole career. But Khalil Mack he's a quality guy. I mean, he's getting a little older, maybe, but still, you would think they would have played better than that.
I completely agree. But here's what I'll say. I've seen in a lot of these Chargers losses, people like to pinpoint Justin Herbert as a potential reason for their loss. Justin Herbert has never been the problem with the Chargers, whether it will be with Anthony Lynn, whether it be with Brandon Staley. Justin Herbert was never there. He's putting his name in record books as like the most amount of yards and touchdowns first few years of his career. Justin Herbert's not the problem here. It's really this defense. I believe this I really don't understand how Brandon Staley still is a coach. At least the head coach of the Chargers. Last season was pitiful. You go up against the Jaguars in that playoff game, and you don't put up any points, and you let the Jaguars come right back in the game and beat you in that second half. It took them one half to go score like 24 points and beat you. I mean, like the fact that, and I thought Brandon Staley should have got fired, and you come out to this game or this season, your defense still looks abysmal. I mean, something has to change, and I really think that Brandon Staley, I think regardless of how the season ends, if their defense is still really bad and it costs them some games, I would really not be surprised. Hell, I'm probably even campaigning for Brandon Staley to not be the head coach of the Chargers next year.
I think if they don't make the playoffs, he's gone.
Yeah, I would say that's a definite. If they miss the playoffs and Justin
Herbert, I would
Herbert
say if they get into a long
yeah.
losing streak during the season here, I think he's gone too, mid-season. During the year, I think they get rid of him too because of just his past performance.
That very well could be the case. I don't know, but congratulations to the Chargers. You got your first win of the season.
Yeah.
The Vikings need to, they got to do some soul searching. They're down 0-3. You play a couple easy games now with Panthers. The Chiefs are obviously difficult, but then you go up against Panthers and then Bears. Those should be two easy games to win. So at least, going sort of halfway through the year, you'll at least have 2 wins under your belt. But, tough, crippling loss for the Vikings in the game against the Chargers. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but coming up, the Patriots get their first win of the season and continue their now 7.5-year winning streak over the New York Jets. But is it time for both teams to look for a new quarterback? Also, Oregon shut down the Colorado Hype in their 42-6 rout of the Buffaloes. And finally, my brother joins the show to talk some football right after this.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the comment.
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance. And why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey, and as always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic. So, America's team, the New England Patriots, get their first win of the season after Randall Cobb cannot catch a beautiful Hail Mary throw by Zach Wilson as the game clock struck 0. Pretty rough game on both sides. Not really any offense for either side. The defenses did look good, though. So I want to know, was this game a clear sign that both the Patriots and the Jets should be looking for other options at the QB position?
I think so on the Jets side, but not on the Patriots side. I haven't been a real great fan of Mac Jones, but I do think the Jets have a good defense. I don't think their defense is bad. Their offense, it's the quarterback position, just like it was last year. Their offense really isn't that bad either. It's the quarterback position. Although I will say the offensive line is not so hot for the Jets, right? They had no running game really, and they have two premier running backs playing for them. They couldn't do much of anything against the Patriots. So I do think the Jets are right back where they were last year, with a decent team, a very good defense, and a serviceable offense with more weapons on it this year than they had last year, except for the quarterback. They got Zach Wilson in there again, and he looked a lot like the Zach Wilson of last year. He didn't manage to throw any interceptions, but he did get tackled in the end zone for a safety, which wasn't so great, and he couldn't do anything for quite a long time until he got one drive going there in the third quarter. They got down there and scored a touchdown. So I think that he's the problem. He's the problem, and why Salah's come out now and said he is our guy. We're 100% behind him. I guess there's nothing else he can say. But when you start saying that, I think that makes him think, well, how hard do I have to try? I'm the number one guy. I wouldn't. I'd stick with him, I guess, because they got no choice. But I'm not sure I'd pump him up to say he's the most wonderful thing that they've ever drafted. So I think the Jets are going to have a long season now.
Absolutely, I completely concur with that. When it comes to the Patriots, I know a lot of people still don't like Mac Jones, and even after this win, people really still don't like how Mac Jones played and still looking for an option at quarterback. I'll say this: every single year, you can look at the numbers. So what Mac Jones has done since the beginning of his career, he wasn't that great at evading sacks. Every time he got pressured, his pressure to sack percentage from his rookie year to now has gone down every single season. And even in this game, he got pressured nearly 50% of the time and took 0 sacks. So when you're talking about Mac Jones himself losing yards for the Patriots, that's not the case. He's now learning how to evade sacks, get the ball out, instead of taking a 5, 6, or even 10-yard sack. So that I got to compliment him on at least. But I'll say this. Here's another thing. Yes, while his pressure to sack percentage has gone down, his under pressure percentage has nearly skyrocketed. Like, it's gone from, I think it's 27% to now it's well over 30% now. So the offensive line for the Patriots is a serious problem, and they're starting to get healthier, but they're still not really that healthy. Cole Strange is still in with an injury. Antonio Mafi, he's been very, very poor. Lowe has been okay, not great. Trent Brown had a phenomenal game this past game. When it comes to the Jets, I really don't understand the confidence in them. I mean, yeah, with Aaron Rodgers, I can understand it. The offensive line is still bad, but at least Rodgers is a competent quarterback. Zach Wilson is not really competent, and now I have a piece of footage here that we saw during the broadcast. The Jets are already starting to implode. I mean, you have Garrett Wilson yelling at Zach Wilson over plays because the offense is so poor. And not only that, you also had a third-string running back, Michael Carter, yelling at his position coach, probably because the offense is terrible. He need to get held back by some of his teammates. So the implosion of the Jets, it's basically already begun. And I really don't think anyone should be, surprised by this. I mean, you have the worst quarterback in the NFL with all the confidence in the world from his teammates and his coaches. He got benched twice last season, and now you're still saying that Zach Wilson is your quarterback for the future? And by the way, what happened about a couple hours before the show, pending a physical, the Jets are planning to sign Trevor Siemian as a backup quarterback. So it's either Tim Boyle is absolutely garbage, and he's worse than Zach Wilson, which that would be a feat in of itself to be worse than Zach Wilson. But to get Trevor Siemian when there are better quarterbacks out there, I mean, Carson Wentz, he contacted the Jets. Matt Ryan's agent contacted the Jets, and the Jets both said, nope, we're good. We're going to stick with Zach Wilson as our quarterback. And for Robert Saleh to call Zach Wilson the unquestioned quarterback for the New York Jets, there is too much confidence in a guy and too much trust in a guy that has time after time again broken trust and played poorly. And I understand, yes, he's a player for your team, but I'm going to talk about this later on the show. I got to hand it to the 49ers here. Trey Lance wasn't the guy, didn't play well in the system. They got off of him. Zach Wilson has been playing. By the way, Trey Lance barely played. We barely saw Trey Lance. Just when we saw him, he wasn't all that great. We're now seeing Zach Wilson play a number of games. He's played 24 games in the league, and he's looked terrible in basically every single one of them. And yet, all of a sudden, the Jets are sticking with them. I don't really understand. Mac Jones, at least, he needs an offensive line. When he's not under pressure, he's been phenomenal. His 10 to 19 yard routes are some of the best. His 10 to 19 yard passes. So that's like intermediate. They're some of the best in the league right now. I mean, he's still top 10 in a number of stats: passing touchdowns, passing yards. Passer rating has dipped a lot. But his offensive line, I think he's the fourth most pressured quarterback in the league. And yet he's still putting up numbers. There's no running game. I think he's second or third in passing attempts and completions.
Offensive line is still a problem.
The offensive line is terrible. So you got to help out Mac Jones, at least before it was weapons. I have a piece of footage here that shows this. So when Juju Smith-Schuster got signed to the New England Patriots, and it was essentially, it was less base, I think more incentive-based than Jacoby Myers' contract with the Raiders. But I have a piece of footage here. This was a throw. This was supposed to be a back shoulder throw to Juju, and Juju just completely doesn't know where the hell's going. He's at the bottom of your screen here, and sorry for the people on Spotify. He's at the bottom of the screen, and he looks like he's going towards the out of bounds, but then cuts upfield. And when Mac Jones sees Juju, we have a freeze frame here, Juju's on his way to going out of bounds. So their connection is clearly not there, and that's where Mac Jones throws it. He's throwing it to the out of bounds line because that's Juju's original route. So their connection hasn't really been working. And by the way, Juju, I mean, he's something else, the play calling. Third and shorts, and you're throwing it 15, 20 yards deep.
I know. I didn't understand that.
The second half was all about draining clock and not converting on third downs. I really don't understand the play calling.
There was
in the
some other
second half.
passes to Smith that they weren't clearly not connected on in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
There was another one on the other side of the field, just kind of like that, where he missed him by quite a bit, probably because Smith didn't run the right route. Is my guess. I think they made a mistake by not re-signing Jacoby Myers and shining Smith instead for about the same money. Smith is nowhere near the player that Jacoby Myers was for the Patriots, and Jacoby Myers is having a pretty good season with the Raiders. So I don't know. That seems like a mistake to me. I would set him down, bring up Tayshaun Boutte again, and see what he can do, because Smith-Schuster has been very poor for the Patriots so far.
I'll say this. There was also the Jets got a big break. Mac Jones threw a beautiful pass to Demario Douglas, Pop Douglas, and the Jets defensive back tackled him before the pass.
Did you see how upset Belichick was on that play?
I would be too.
It was
Douglas
clearly pass interference.
He also got
in his face.
Not only was he tackled beforehand, he got smacked inside of the helmet.
Yeah,
even before the pass got there.
I mean, that was down like on the 2 or 3 yard line when that happened.
It was near the goal. They definitely probably could have put up points. Something that's surprising, is that the Patriots actually have a top 10 red zone efficiency. I think they may even be top 5. I could bring it up quickly. But the difference is the Patriots' defense last season, at least in the red zone, was pretty good. This season, not so much. So right now, the Patriots currently, if I have the number in front of me, the Patriots currently this season, do I not have it? Here we go. The Patriots are 6th in red zone percentage. Their defense is 22nd in red zone percentage. Last season, it's the opposite. Not really. The Patriots defense is still bad, 22nd last year, but they're 32nd on offense last season. This season, they're doing much better in the red zone, but it looks weird because they're not really scoring that many points. They never get to the red zone.
That's right. That's why their percentage is high. They aren't there very often.
Last season, between the 21-yard lines, they were really good, so they get into the red zone. Now they can't get into the red zone anymore. So when you score, almost 7 out of 10 times. If you only get there 10 times throughout a year, obviously it'll look nice. But the fact that they don't get in the red zone, they don't do well situationally late in the game. They need to get on the right page. And some of this play calling, I don't fully understand. It seemed like Bill O'Brien wanted to just run clock down in the second half. I mean, Zeke was dealing, but still, though, I mean, the third and shorts, you're throwing it 15, 20 yards
I don't understand that. When they had a couple of drives, so they got into a rhythm with the short passing game and a run here and there, which didn't get much yardage because the running game is not very good so far, but Zeke was playing okay. And then it's third down, and they throw a long pass. Why? if you're having success with the short yardage game, why not stick with that?
Right.
I don't get it. I don't get that. I think there's still a work in progress on offense. That's for sure.
time.
And I can understand it a little bit. The new offensive coordinator, some new personnel, offensive coordinator just getting to know Mac Jones and vice versa. So maybe it takes a little while to get going, but now we're into the fourth game of the season. You'd think they would have most of it worked out.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I'll say this, though. Mac Jones, he is one of the lowest times to throw. You got to – the one thing, right? The one thing the Patriots always ensured with Tom Brady, that offensive line holds up. Because then you can have guys like, Chris Hogan and Malcolm Mitchell and all these guys that aren't great number one receivers, Edelman, Amendola.
Edelman was a pretty good receiver.
Right, but like on Super Bowl winning teams, these guys might be wide receiver 2s and 3s. Chris Hogan, I believe he was on the Panthers, and I think he had a very, very short stint with, I believe, the Saints. He was like the wide receiver 4 or 5. Yet he was catching, 60-yard passes from Tom Brady, scoring touchdowns in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So the one thing the Patriots did with Tom Brady is they know Tom Brady didn't have legs. He didn't have great feet. He had great pocket feet, but he didn't have legs to, boot out to the side and make a throw or scramble. So they shored up an offensive line. Now you get Mac Jones in now, and people are hoping Mac Jones is the next Tom Brady. No one will be the next Tom Brady. But you got to shore up that offensive line and give him time to throw. I showed you, last week against the very, very last play of the game. If Mac Jones just had time to go through his progressions, we had Devontae Parker in the top right on an open crossing route or open corner route. That would have been at least go down to the maybe the 15 or the 10-yard line.
Might have scored on that play.
Very well might have scored because Mac Jones drew the safety, the high safety off to the left. Devontae Parker had years of room in front of him to potentially score. You got to shore up that offensive line, and what the Patriots have done so far. I'm not calling it criminal, but I'm just saying that they could do a much, much better job at trying to find success. But unfortunately, so far, the offensive line is still a problem. They're still trying to get healthy, but still, though, it's about consistency. It's about reps.
You got to be able to punch out a first down there with late in the game with the time running out, right? They gave the ball back to the Jets like 3 times. With just a few minutes left. It was unbelievable. I said, is this game ever going to end?
Yeah.
The Jets used their timeouts. They didn't have any timeouts. They still got the ball back. And that's when the Hail Mary pass happened. But they had that game took forever. The last 5 minutes of that game were endless. I couldn't believe how long it took. Mainly because the Patriots could not get a first down.
Right.
They couldn't get a first down. Come on, if you're gonna be a winning team, you gotta be able to close out a game like that and find a way to get at least one first down.
I don't know if it was after the safety or not, but they had like 4 out of 5 plays were penalized. You had the Juju blindside block, then you had a false start, then I think you had a holding, then I think you had another false start late in the game.
They had a lot of penalties.
It was a problem, and not only that, I'll say this: while the offense was absolutely abysmal. I know I crapped all over Christian Gonzalez in that first week. He's been a lockdown corner ever since. Basically locking up Garrett Wilson for the entire game.
He's a good player.
At 17, you looked at Christian Gonzalez was a steal. He was definitely a steal that spot, and I put him number 6 to the Lions because they needed a cornerback at the time. But I got to give it to the Patriots. Picking Chris, he's been phenomenal. I can't say anything else.
Giving him the opportunity, putting him in there right off the bat.
You're putting him in number one receivers.
Put him on the number 1 receiver every week. He was on Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson did nothing.
He did great against Tyreek Hill. He did.
Because Zach Wilson never found him. He might have been open a couple of times, but Zach Wilson never found him.
No,
and Wilson was frustrated, right? He was over on the sideline talking to the offensive coordinator. He was talking to the other players. They showed him over there complaining. Well, he was unhappy.
Well, not only that, the players were also yelling at him too. Garrett Wilson was talking. Michael Carter was frustrated at his own position coach. So I don't know. This Jets team's imploding. Now you're going up against the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. You're going to get absolutely murdered, I think. The offense won't be able to do anything with Chris Jones on that defensive front. So, quite
what do you think Carter was upset about there?
The offense is it's not doing anything.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's going to be a rough season. I'm sure a lot of Jets fans are disappointed. And the fact that the Jets still, or at least Robert Saleh still, believes in Zach Wilson, I don't know. It's not good if you really think Zach Wilson is your quarterback one for the future. All right, let's talk some college football. So, Oregon, they were number 10, but now they're number 9 ranked Oregon went up against, at the time, number 19 ranked Colorado. They dropped out of the AP Top 25. And then they absolutely took care of business. The head coach was talking smack. We play for we don't play for clicks or something like that. Obviously referencing all the hype that the Colorado Buffaloes are getting, but they took care of business on every single facet of the game. They beat Colorado and Deion Sanders. They beat them 42-6. That was the Buffaloes' first loss of the season after winning some very, very, interesting and exciting games.
Exciting games.
So I'll ask you, are you surprised that Colorado had literally zero answer for anything the Oregon Ducks did?
I am surprised. I think Deion Sanders surrounded himself with a pretty good coaching staff, and a lot of players transferred in to play for him. They didn't have Hunter playing, and that hurt them because the guy that they had in there playing the cornerback position in place of Hunter, he got burned, and they went after him a lot of passing plays, and he clearly didn't play up to what Hunter would have been able to play up to, and it's a shame because Hunter's out because of a cheap shot by the Colorado State player, and that was uncalled for, and that's just very unsportsmanlike. And it's a shame that he got hurt like that and couldn't play because of that cheap shot, so I think the Colorado coaching staff, the offensive line was horrible for Colorado, that's for sure. But it seems like they should have recognized that and had Sanders, running, going outside the pocket to throw the ball, doing some different maneuvers there, and maybe some really quick short passes or something. Because when he dropped back and looked downfield, he had like no time. They would just roll him over. He got sacked multiple times. And I'm sure he was very frustrated. He seemed like he lost his confidence a little bit, too. He didn't play anywhere near like he's played the last few games. So very disappointing. I thought it would be much closer. The Oregon coach was he pumped up his players. They showed him talking, said, "This is not Hollywood." He was all over Deion Sanders about that. I don't know about that. I really think that was kind of in poor taste to do that. But again, pumped up his players, and they won 42-6. So he had it working. But now Colorado's got USC this week too. Those two games right in a row. That's tough.
They're going to kill.
USC is number 5, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. And that game is at Colorado, I believe, right?
I believe it is.
Yeah. So maybe they'll do a little better. I hope so. I don't like seeing Deion get beat like that. I like Deion Sanders.
I'll say this. The Colorado defense had a very, very rough game. Yeah, you bring the offensive line to call them.
The offensive line was a sieve. They couldn't stop them at all. It was like they ran right through there.
To say Colorado have an offensive line against Oregon may be a little bit generous. It seemed like, it reminded me of the Rams-Seattle playoff game a couple of years ago, where every time Russell Wilson snapped the ball, it seemed like he was running for his life. Aaron Donald was on his tail. Leonard Floyd, it was bad. But, it was very bad. Colorado had a very, very difficult time tackling. Troy Franklin, the receiver, he seemed like he caught every single pass that was thrown his way. He had 2 touchdowns, 8 catches for 126 yards. They were getting cooked on every single facet of the game. They couldn't run the ball. Shedeur Sanders, he had, 159 yards and 1 touchdown. Bo Nix was tearing that defense up. What I found interesting was that Oregon had more touchdowns in the first half than Colorado had first downs. That's how great Oregon played against Colorado. But I'll say this when it comes to talking about Colorado. What was the end goal for the season? What was the
national championship?
If they're going for the national championship, they're over their heads. I'm sorry. Even with Deion hyping up his team or whatever the case may be, they were never going to win a national championship in the first season. Would it have been probably the best college football story in history? Maybe. Deion first year going from an HBCU in Jackson State.
Yeah, it would be. It would be the greatest. It would be one of the greatest stories in college football history. A 1-11 Colorado
team going to the national championship. That would be probably the best story in college football history. But what I'll say is, if Colorado loses every single game from here on out, I would already call the season a success. You've already won 3 times the games you won last season. You put Colorado as literally one of the most nationally televised or most followed teams in college football this season. I think they broke a college football viewing record with like 9.3 million viewers.
Yeah.
I think it broke like an ESPN
I've been watching
record.
them. I'm going to watch them this week against
Colorado
USC.
has never been watched more in the history of Colorado football since Deion got there.
Yeah.
So what I'll say is, this season for Colorado has already been a success, regardless of how the season ends. Shedeur Sanders has looked pretty good. Travis Hunter, he's a 5-star recruit. What he did in week 1 against TCU was incredible. It's unfortunate that he got absolutely, I believe it was a lacerated liver? Skip Bayless reported on.
Really?
It was like a lacerated kidney or a lacerated liver or something like that.
He's back this week, though,
He's
right?
He sort of begged Deion Sanders to see if he could play, but he probably won't play against USC, which is unfortunate because if you were to have Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders against Caleb Williams, I think that would have been an incredible game. Now, sadly, Caleb Williams most likely will go to the NFL next season. Shadeur's trying to get to the NFL, but it looks like Deion may lure him back for at least one more season with Colorado. But for me personally, and I could be wrong, people have their opinions. For me, what Deion Sanders did basically from day one with the amount of transfer portal moves, with making players leave and bringing in new people, already winning 3 games, which is 3 more than you won last season. 3 times you won what? You won 1 last year, so 2 more games than you won last season. What I got to say is, this season, at least in my eyes, what Deion did for Colorado and the culture he's building for Colorado football, I would personally already call this season a success for them.
Well,
even if their win-loss record doesn't
I don't
say that.
disagree. I think, though, that their coaching staff has got to make adjustments during the game. They didn't. Their offense made no adjustments. He kept dropping back there, looking downfield, and he had no time.
Right.
He should have been rolling out. He should have been rolling out or having some really quick-hitting short passes, or maybe a draw play once in a while. I just think they didn't mix it up enough. They could have done a little better than that, I think. I was surprised by that. I thought that their offense would make some adjustments. And Shedeur Sanders is a very athletic quarterback. He could run the ball maybe a few times too.
Yeah.
And stay. He never really tried to run it himself. He could have tried that a couple of times too. That might have shaken up they seemed to know every play what was coming. The Oregon defense. It was disappointing.
And what I'll say, was it Lanning, the head coach of Oregon's getting a lot of heat for how he hyped up his players. Hey, if you have millions of people watching you, live in the moment. If that's what you do to hype, clearly it worked.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you think of how he did it, it clearly worked. You took over the game. You crushed them. On national, like this was viewed by probably 5. I haven't looked at the actual numbers, but if I had to take a guess, just based on the hype of it, this was probably viewed by over 5 million people.
Oh, I bet more.
Oh, yeah, probably way more. So if you're, regardless of how you think of the hype, it worked. It clearly worked. So regardless of the tactic of it, morally it may be, disrespectful to say that we're not playing for clicks, obviously taking a shot at what Deion's doing. I mean, it worked. So
I think it's a low blow to pick on the other coach, saying, this isn't Hollywood. Deion Sanders is a Hall of Fame player.
What I'll say,
he's one of the greatest players in NFL history.
I'd probably say he's the best
and look
quarterback.
look what he's done. Look what he's done in his coaching career. He didn't have to go out and coach, right? He didn't have to do that. He made tons of money playing football and with his endorsements and all that stuff. He's a top flight guy. I think you'd give him a little more respect than that.
I'll say this about Deion. He never starts any of this. The Colorado State thing was uncalled for.
He didn't start that. The other coach was saying he was wearing sunglasses. Gave a crack at him for
when
playing
you talk
sunglasses.
to adults, you take off your hat. And, completely uncalled for. Completely uncalled for. Deion never starts anything. But it's just the aura that Deion brings that I think,
they're jealous of him.
It's different. I mean, Oregon with Justin Herbert was great. It was fun to watch. But now, Oregon plays well. They're not as nationally televised as Colorado was a horrible team last year. Went 1-11. Deion comes in. They're one of the most viewed teams in college football over Alabama and all these teams.
I would say if he can hang on to Shedeur, and probably Shedeur will come back and play for him next season, and his other son, they play. The way the top flight recruits watching this, I bet he'll have a team that can compete for the national championship next year.
This is probably the worst Colorado team under Deion Sanders we will see. Because I guarantee you what Deion's doing and it's very, very attractive what Deion's doing, building that culture, building the team up. I guarantee you we'll see. I mean, Travis Hunter, I believe he stole Travis Hunter away from many, many other great teams. And so this is probably the worst Colorado Buffalo football team we're going to see in Deion's tenure there. I think a lot of top recruits are going to come to Colorado.
Well, the season's still pretty young. I mean, they had that terrible game. We'll see what happens the rest of the way. I say,
they're going to get killed by USC.
Maybe, but they have some games they can win later on. They may make a bowl. They might make it to a bowl game.
I think next week against USC or this week against USC, they're going to get slaughtered.
What is did their ranking drop?
They're out of the top 25.
They're out of the top 25 now. Yeah. Well, that's tough.
I mean, when you lose 42-6,
I know.
That's all I'm saying.
I know. You had to suspect it a little bit when they went into overtime against Colorado State. I don't think Colorado State's anything special.
And now you're going up against USC, which is easily probably not rated wise, but they're
number 5.
They're number 5, but I think just personnel wise and the quarterback you have, they're the best team in college football. Regardless of that's what I think. Caleb Williams is probably going to go number 1 if he declares for this draft. So I really think based on what Bo Nix was doing to the Colorado defense, Caleb Williams, he's going to smoke this defense. So it's unfortunate that you go play Colorado, a top 10 team now moved up to number 9, and then you go play USC with the number 1 pick in probably this upcoming year's draft.
Yeah, it's too bad they're back-to-back, those games.
I think it would have been better if Travis Hunter was playing. At least it would be more...
I'm sure, for sure it would be.
It would be more of a highlighted game.
That gives their offense a lot more pop.
Not only that, you had a defensive...
And he's a very good defensive player, too.
Yeah, he had a goal line interception against... A beautiful interception goal line against TCU. So it's unfortunate that Travis Hunter will probably be out for this game. I would love to see that. USC, Colorado, Shadur Sanders, Travis Hunter, Shiloh Sanders, Caleb Williams, and that USC squad is loaded. So it's unfortunate, but we'll
be watching.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very entertaining. We're going to take a quick break in about 20 seconds, but coming up, my brother joins the show to talk some Jets, some Patriots, and some Cowboys. We're going to discuss that right after this.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the comment.
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance. And why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
All right, welcome back to the Harvey. I think we got my brother on. We're going to start. Hopefully this interview goes well. But yeah, let's introduce him, why don't we? So, lifelong Jets and Mets fan. Good to have you on, John. My brother is joining the show. We usually have him on about one time a year, so I don't know how you doing so far tonight, John.
Okay, I mean, same as every other Jets fan out there.
So I want to talk about this one. My first question for you, at least. It's pretty rough. I know. We talked about this pre-show. You've been on this for probably over a year now, but I never really understood why the Jets put in stone that Zach Wilson was their guy. They put him in stone back in I believe the 2021 draft. He hasn't looked good since he started with the Jets and never seemed like he really grew up really in the NFL. He's now 0-5 against the Patriots, 8-16 in his career. He's under 55% completion percentage as well. Not played very well. So I want to know, based on your opinion, should the Jets finally move off of Zach Wilson?
I think they're getting to a point where they're not going to have a choice. If they lose many more games, they're going to lose the whole fan base at a certain point. I think ownership and the GM and coach are hanging on because their jobs ride with Zach Wilson. If he doesn't work out, they're all getting fired.
I probably agree with that. Absolutely.
Did you see they're picking up Trevor Siemian?
I did. I think that's more an image move than anything. They wanted to bring somebody who would compete with Zach Wilson but make it seem they're trying to get some competition.
I mean, I don't know how much competition Trevor Siemian really brings. We haven't seen him in a number of years here, but at least for me, you take a look at it. You could trade for maybe a Jameis Winston. Now he'll probably start this week with Derek Carr most likely being out, but I mean, you got to get someone. This team is too good to rely on other backward quarterbacks or a quarterback like Zach Wilson. So I really don't know if the best option is the confidence they have. I don't even think is warranted. Has he really earned their trust?
We can't really speak to that. We don't see what he's doing every day in practice, but I can imagine through game success, he's earning their faith in terms of performance.
I would say that's fair. I want to pivot now to something else. We didn't cover it during the actual main show. However, I want to talk to you about it. So the Eagles handed the Bucs their first loss, and Baker Mayfield throughout basically this entire season has looked pretty good, pretty efficient. With the Bucs, he's had a better completion percentage, a higher passer rating, more touchdowns than last year through the first 3 games. Same amount of interceptions at 1, but still, though, having 1 interception, at least on Baker Mayfield standards, is pretty good. So, based on what you've seen, throughout Baker Mayfield's career, have I been wrong about Baker? Is he actually a viable option for Tampa Bay?
I think he has a chance to stick. I think people tend to latch on to his abrasive personality, and they don't like him for that. But he's had success in the NFL. He's been a quarterback. I think that he has earned some level of respect to the point where that Tampa Bay should give him the rest of the season, continue to prove it is the option for them.
I think that's fair. I mean,
he's played pretty well, actually. He didn't do so great last night, but
who against the Eagles?
I know, it was against the Eagles, so that the Eagles look great. I mean, they're a dominant team too.
But
so
my problem is strictly with Baker Mayfield is that he had his moments. Definitely had his moments with Cleveland. He even had that first game against the Browns when he was with the Panthers was good. He should have actually probably won that game. And then he goes to the Rams in his first game. He had 48 hours with the Rams playbook, and he has that great comeback against the Raiders. He's had moments, but for me at least, it's all about consistency. Baker throughout his career has been more consistently poor and disappointing than he has been consistently great. So that's where I'm like, I don't know if I should trust it, but what do you say about that?
I think it's fair, and at the same time, he may win you a Super Bowl. I think for what the Buccaneers are trying to do in the next 2-3 years, he's not viable enough. Think of how many quarterbacks in the NFL you would take over. I mean, Jets fan, I certainly take Baker Mayfield over than we have right now, and I think a lot of other teams out there would feel the same way.
I'll give you that.
How about Zach Wilson was probably one of the worst quarterbacks in the league right now.
Yeah.
So who else do you think would be someone that Baker Mayfield would be better than? Maybe Justin Fields right now, right?
Yeah,
he's played pretty terrible.
I would take Baker over Justin.
Yeah, so there's 2.
I mean, the rookies, I really, you can't put in the rookies.
I wouldn't put them in there.
I think they're still a work in progress.
Right.
I certainly think the Cardinals would have liked to have
Cardinals.
it out now.
Well, even Josh Dobbs, and we're about to talk about it. I'll segue into the Cardinals right now. Josh Dobbs just pull up a great game against the Cowboys. I mean, Trayvon Diggs unfortunately suffered a torn ACL in practice. And the Cowboys going into this game, they suffered that embarrassing loss against the Cardinals, and Josh Dobbs and this Cardinals team looks great. So, I mean, what was your reaction to that game, and how big of a loss do you think Trayvon Diggs is to the Cowboys?
I think it's a huge loss for them. I mean, their defense is still going to be exceptional. I think that their Super Bowl chance certainly took a dive, and the Cowboys historically hurt quite a bit right now. And if nothing, it looks very bad for them to have lost the game and lost a player.
Don't you think that the Cowboys went into Arizona thinking we're going to stomp these guys? I think they were not ready to play. I think they were overconfident.
I think they were looking
very
week.
overconfident. Yeah. And I think the Cardinals coach is maybe a very good coach, Gannon.
You're trusting Jonathan Gannon?
I think Jonathan Gannon may be a very good coach. I think they haven't been trounced in any of their games, right? And they beat Dallas. They beat Dallas. Dallas
the Cardinals
could
have won every single game. They blew it against the Giants. They blew it late against the Commanders. Yeah. And they pull out a dominant win against
so
against
watch out for them. They may be better than you think.
And now you got Kyler Murray coming back.
They look like a team with a rookie coach, but they're playing very passionately. I think they feel slighted by the rest of the league and the media saying that they were going to lose every game. They don't care. So I think they're into it with more passion than just about any other team right now.
But wouldn't that be warranted, though? You lose Kyler Murray with a torn ACL. In the offseason, you were graded a bunch of F- on facility and for front office. I mean, some of that has to be warranted at least. I mean, this team, we saw it. Kyler was scared to run in the playoff game and got a bunch of heat for it. I think that's well deserved, don't you think?
I think it deserved media to be bashing the team, but I think that there's a difference between coming out and saying they have a bad facility and things like that, and saying the team is trying to lose. I think fair. That's probably insulting to everybody. Because this is their career.
Right.
That far removed from being in the playoffs, right? It was 2 years ago. They were in the playoffs, so they do have some good players there. I think that Gannon, he looks to me like to be a pretty good coach. He keeps his cool on the sidelines. When the Giants came back and beat them, he didn't lose his cool. He was just watching the game and taking it all in, and I think there's a teaching moment for the team, and they came out and beat the Cowboys. I think that was a pretty impressive win.
I think the most shocking part of it was the Cowboys defense gave up 400 total yards of offense, 200 yards rushing yards for the Cardinals. Also, no forced turnovers. The Cowboys defense was actually very bad against the Cardinals. I think that's probably the most surprising thing. Dak had a mistake late, but Dak always makes mistakes. So
I don't think that this is much about the mistake. I think it's about the lack of mistakes at the Cardinals. I think that their short passing game, dull as it may be, it's working for them for what Dobbs is as a quarterback. And I think that was reflected in this game. Limited mistakes, and they put together an overall solid game.
I could agree with that. I want to pivot back to the Patriots and Jets now because I don't know, it wasn't pretty on either side, and for the Patriots, getting the win, wasn't pretty, and the Jets offense, you could say, was basically non-existent again, led by Zach Wilson. So I want to know, the winning streak now continues to 15 games, 7.5 years. I forget if it was our first football game, but I know it was mine. That was the last time the Jets won. I don't know if you remember Eric Decker passed by Ryan Fitzpatrick in the right side of the end zone. I believe that might have been an overtime as well.
Against Malcolm Butler.
Well, it was against Malcolm Butler. There you go.
We were at the game.
Yeah, so that was the last time they won. I don't know if that was your first game. I know that was mine. But I want to know, based on what, the Jets look, Patriots look, what were your overall takeaways, or rather your biggest takeaway from Sunday's game?
I think it's exactly what I thought this would be once Aaron Rodgers went down. Their defense does what it's supposed to do, limits the opposing team to a number of points, and the offense can't get it done. I think that's what a lot of games look like. They're going to be a lot of low-scoring performances that ultimately are close games because their defense is just hanging on by a thread.
What do you think about the Jets running game, John? I mean, I guess you put it on their offensive line. They have a couple of good quality running backs there. They can't get anything done.
I think that their offensive line is a problem for them. I think people knew that going into the season. The Jets front office really overlooked that in the offseason. I think it's going to be something they really have to revisit here, because clearly it's been an issue. I mean, they're missing our quarterback because of it. So.
Right. Well, how about this? I thought about this, and one of my friends made a really, really good point. Have we overvalued that Jets offense? I mean, yeah, Breece Hall was great, and the name Dalvin Cook is always great. He's a consistent 1,000-yard back, but he looks extremely slow out there. And not only that, yeah, Garrett Wilson won Offensive Rookie of the Year. Alan Lazard is a wide receiver 3 on most teams, and McCole Hardman was a special teams guy. And Tyler Conklin as a tight end. That's not a world beater. So do you think that a lot of people, and it could just be the fact that Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback, do you think a lot of people overvalue just how good that offense for the Jets would be this season?
I think a couple factors play to that. I think Corey is retiring certainly hurt them.
Okay.
I think it would have been another really valuable receiver that is longer there. I think the Jets are to some extent misusing their offensive players. I think Cole Hardman should be playing more. I think that Alan Lazard will play better. He's obviously hurting playing with his star back and somebody he's more familiar with. And it's not like Zach Wilson is bringing up anybody around him.
I would say the opposite. He's bringing them down.
Exactly. And I think the running game is strong. Breece Hall has to be careful with how he's playing because of just coming from an injury.
Right.
Dalvin Cook is great, but he's learning a new offense. And ultimately, they're playing behind an offensive line that's about as good as a keeper right now.
Yeah. It's pretty bad. Also, Dwayne Brown went on IR. That's definitely a major hit. And they moved Elijah Vera Tucker to, I think, right tackle this game against the Patriots. But by the way, just as we were talking, the Jets officially signed Trevor Siemian to the practice squad, so that is now official. Who knows about whether or not they'll actually use him? I think there's a chance because for some reason Tim Boyle never saw the field.
Pretty good chance he'll be up there playing.
Interesting. Yeah. And for the I guess second to final topic because I was scoring Thursday night pick.
Just one more question for John.
Sure, go for it.
What was your thought, John, as a Jets player when Zach Wilson threw the Hail Mary?
That it wasn't going to be anyway.
It was pretty close.
Randall Cobb was inches away from that.
When Duggar slapped the ball, it hit off the shoulder pad and it bounced up in the air there. It was up there for grabs.
Randall Cobb was close.
He was pretty close to it. I don't know why Duggar, he could have intercepted it. It was right to him. Yeah. I think he made. I wonder what they said about that afterwards. And we watched the film on Monday, the Patriots.
Yeah.
What they told him about that.
Sure,
what
you're
he should do.
a little bit less of him next. He was on the field quite as much.
Well, I mean, I don't know why we're seeing a lot of him anyway, but that's beside the point. I want to get to get this quick. Randall Cobb. I don't think we're really going to see any of him. I'll say this. So it's unfortunate. You've been, like I said, like I introduced you with, lifelong Mets fan. The Mets came into the season with a MLB record $331 million payroll, getting stars like Justin Verlander, who just won the Cy Young last year. And based on projections, they're projected to have their lowest record since 2017. I think it's like 76 wins, something like that. So I wonder how disappointing for you, a Mets fan, has this season been?
Same as it's always been.
So
I think,
go for it.
yes, it hurt, but it's not Mets have a track record really exceeding expectations. So
right.
Anytime Mets been big, they don't have a track record of doing all well. So I think every Mets was cautiously optimistic, but I don't think it comes as much of a surprise to people who really need the franchise.
Yeah, I think they did the right thing. They unloaded the two big pitchers' salaries. They were paying those guys big money, Scherzer and Verlander. They unloaded them. So I don't know. We'll see what they do next year. Do you think they will hang on to the first baseman there?
Pete Alonso, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's tough too for somebody who is supposed to be the star team, but he's hitting 220. I think that they
Right.
need to figure out some pieces around him so that he's the third, fourth best player on the team, or they should trade him for another prospect to continue to build the farm system.
I mean, if Pete Alonso and his, heavy hitting, it would be a third or fourth best player. I mean, that has to be a top contending team, no?
Yeah. I mean, how about
That's the
Lindor?
goal.
Lindor is underperformed for them.
Early on, he was terrible. He picked it up a little bit, but still, nothing that he used to be.
He's certainly not, but
He
they
played well
expect
last
when
year.
they signed him.
He played well last year, but he had a regression year this year again. Right? He didn't play that
did.
well this year.
And that first year was bad, though.
The first year was terrible.
First year was bad.
I think that they're hurt by the fact that there really aren't very many strong players around them. If you look at the lineup, I mean, compare what they started the season with, half of these guys were barely in AAA
Right.
when they started the year. So I think that they're suffering from the standpoint that there's really nobody else hit around them, so people don't have to do them anything good.
Right. I think that's a fair point. And then to wrap up the show in its totality, let's get into our Thursday night picks. So just hold on for a second, John, while I introduce this topic. So Jared Goff and Jordan Love face off in Thursday night. Jared Goff's second Thursday night game after opening to the Chiefs and winning that in a 1-point win. I believe it was 21-20. Now they're 1-point favorites away at Packers. Jordan Love looks good. Jared Goff looks good. Both teams are probably shocking more people than I think a lot of people expected. The Packers with Jordan Love coming from Aaron Rodgers, they didn't know what Jordan Love looked like, and not a lot of great things were being said about Jordan Love in the offseason. And Jared Goff, we had questions about that defense, that Lions defense. That seemingly has picked up big time this season. So I'll start at least. So who wins Thursday night? I got the Lions 27-24. They win. I just think Jared Goff gets it done. I believe he's won like 10 out of his past 14 games, 10 out of his past 13 games. He's been absolutely insane. He beat this team late in the year to block Rodgers from any hope of getting back to the playoffs last season. And that defense, I mean, Aiden Hutchinson may be going for all pro this year. He's looked absolutely dominant. That defense looks much better than it did last season. And Jared Goff with that offense still, I think they're going to get the ball rolling. I have them win 27-24. John, what's your pick for for Thursday's game?
I'll have the Lions. I think that Jared Goff's experience really shows here compared to Love. And to your point, the defense has been exceptional, and I don't think that changes. This game, I think the Lions win 24-20.
All right, Dad, who you got?
Well, I think this is going to be a very close game. I think the Green Bay is always better when they play in Green Bay. It's not that cold yet, but it's still Green Bay and Lambeau Field and the crowd and the community of Green Bay, and the football is everything to them. I think that helps the Packers when they play at home. I think the Lions are still a little bit of a question mark. They're definitely a much better team. They did lose to the Seahawks.
Yeah.
And I was a little at home, and I was a little surprised by that. I think if they're really a playoff team this year, that's a game they should have won. They did win last week against the Falcons. So the Packers, on the other hand, beat the Saints. And
That was a great game.
I don't know. What happened to Jameis Winston? Did he play well when he came in?
He didn't play all that great.
He
James
didn't play
Winston
well.
wasn't all
Yeah.
that hot.
Yeah, well, that's too bad. I thought that. I think he's an underrated quarterback. So to see him come
The
out there,
topic of the Falcons, the Packers lost to the Falcons.
The Packers lost to him, yeah.
the Packers lost to the Falcons. Yeah,
Yeah, by 1 point, yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think the Lions will win. But I think it's going to be very close. I have it 23-20.
The graphic messed up a little bit, but yeah, 23-20 is your score.
Not 32.
I got it wrong.
You got the numbers
That's
backwards there.
my fault. It's 23-20. But that wraps up today's show, John. I appreciate having you on. Sorry, it took a little bit longer than I expected, 21 minutes. But it was always great to have you on. Great to hear from you. Great to hear your insight onto your disdain for Jets and Mets. However, though, I got the Knicks look good. The Knicks do look good. They're probably the hottest team in basketball. I would say, at least personally.
Cautiously optimistic. The same as others.
And,
We'll see what happens.
that is fair. But hey, they made the playoffs. They should have. I think. Can we at least agree they should have beaten the Heat?
Everybody thinks they
I
should
can
have beaten the
dream.
Heat.
I'm still arguing. You could disagree with me real quick, but I really think they beat themselves up. That was a winnable
I thought
series.
Milwaukee was going to beat the Heat. I thought the Knicks were going to beat the Heat. I thought the Celtics were going to beat the Heat. And the only one that could beat them was Denver.
And I think you picked Denver, so at least you got 1 out of 4.
Yeah.
So there you go. So yeah, John, I'll let you go here. Thanks for joining the show. Like I said, lifelong Jets and Mets fan, and I should have added Knicks fan as well. My brother, John Harvey, thanks for joining the show.
Happy to be here, Nate. Thanks for having me.
See you later, John.
So,
good to hear your voice and talk to you.
So that wraps up today's show of the Harvey Hour. I appreciate John coming on the show. My name's Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We are the hosts of the Harvey Hour. Catch us Friday. We got another set of the Harvey Hot Hand. We got another set of our Week 4 picks. Then the week after that, we're bringing back the top 10 quarterbacks. 7 days Notches comes back. But next Friday, we got a lot planned. We got a lot of games I want to highlight on that we're going to discuss pre-show, of course. For this episode, my name is Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We are the Harvey Hour. Catch us Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
Night, Grandpa.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.